An NHL insider has just dropped a bombshell report on Kirill Kaprizov and the Minnesota Wild, detailing a number that we have never seen before in the NHL. We're going to be breaking it down, going over what this means for the Minnesota Wild, as well as one thing that the owner of the Wild has said, which puts them in a very tough situation. We have a lot to break down here in this video, ladies and gentlemen. Before we do go into this one, though, I asked you one favor, to go and hit the sub button. We're very close to 2K. Your sport's been phenomenal, but by doing that, you're doing me a favor, and I'm giving you a favor by getting you up to date with every bit of Wild news as it happens. We're also on Spotify, so you get your news on the road, wherever you may be, and you stay up to date with this team. But we need to get straight into this, because obviously Kirill Kaprizov has been the talk of the town for the last, couple weeks going with the Wild now, and after turning down a $16 million deal, things are heating up on the market of, first of all, trades and a salary. But this one from Elliotte Friedman that he has dropped is an absolute insane report. I want to go over first what kind of led up to this from 32 Thoughts, the podcast. Elliotte Friedman believes that there are teams ready to offer Kaprizov more money if he hits free agent market. If Kaprizov were to walk to free agency, the longest he'd be able to sign is 7 years. Now, get ready for this. Listen to this. To surpass the $128 million in total being offered by the Wild, another team would have to fork over more than $19 million in annual salary. That is an exuberant amount of money from what we've been talking, what we've been seeing, and what teams would have to pay to get Kirill Kaprizov. Now, this is an insane report, of course, from Elliotte Friedman here on 32 Thoughts, the podcast. Coming into this, and we also have another report that we're going to jump into from his quote coming right here. He says, I'm not backing down at all from me thinking somebody is making it very clear out there. There is a 19 or a 20 million by 7 out there. At the end of the day, we're probably going to have to wait a year to figure that out, but I 100% believe that is going on. Now, this is something that, we've seen a lot of. We've seen a lot of big numbers. We've seen a lot of crazy prices going around in conversation. But Elliotte Friedman, one of the most notable reporters in the NHL, says he is 100% confident that somebody is ready and willing to offer Kirill Kaprizov 19 or $20 million on an AAV. Now, this is genuinely insane, because we've been hearing this about Kirill Kaprizov, with the name of Connor McDavid also being out there, I would say in a much different situation with the Edmonton Oilers, and arguably a worse one. I still think the Wild are in a bit of a favored position here, especially with what's going on, but for Kirill Kaprizov, we saw him reject a $16 million deal with this team. We thought, hey, maybe he wants a little bit more, maybe he wants a little bit less term. We're seeing all this, but now with everything coming out, with upwards of $19 and $20 million deals being thrown out there by guys like Elliotte Friedman, this may put something in the mind of Kirill Kaprizov saying, hey, why not wait it out? If the Wild are not going to offer me somewhere upwards of that going for 8 years rather than 7, why would I try and sign here for cheaper? And this is a bit of a predicament for the Minnesota Wild now, knowing that all of this stuff is coming out. And stuff like this, where Friedman, the name he is, it don't matter what he says, who it comes from, the fact that Elliotte Friedman says it immediately has value to even the players, and the fact that he says he's 100% confident is a major issue. Now, going into Kirill Kaprizov, the contract that we've seen the projection of is 8 years by $14 million. Now, this is just based off solely statistics. Of course, AFP Analytics putting out what the price would be. Of course, with the market inflation coming there, the bigger cap hit, or more cap space, I should say, coming to NHL teams. But also the fact that, hey, he's a player that at 29 years old is going to be coming into this league, or continuing in this league with getting better, getting older, but, the cap's going to go up. So $14 million seems fair, and you're looking at this now. But the comparison between the analytics, AFP Analytics in this case, going to what other teams are reported, and Elliotte Friedman being confident that teams are offering $6 million more with 1 year less on this. Now, of course, 8 years by $16 million, and comparing that to 7 years by $18 or $19 million is pretty much the same price. Coming down to it with your extra year and money and how much that would really translate over, yeah, it's pretty much the same at the end of the day, but Kirill Kaprizov trying to get more money per season, that would be one thing that, at least I'd say a lot of players are thinking about going into it, and when you're kind of projected around that number that we're seeing right now, it is a tough thing to go about that and, kind of say, hey, why am I not getting an amount that we've been talking about? But Craig Leopold as well. We got now kind of what Friedman's saying about him, saying that he's going to make Kirill Kaprizov the highest paid player in the NHL no matter what. Handcuffs us a bit because just say a team is willing to offer them 19-20 million. Kirill Kaprizov and his agent come and say, hey, we got this offer from another team that if we go to free agency, we could be this price. Now, of course, that would be tampering and whatnot there, but still, the mindset is out there. It comes out through the media. Things happen. The fact that this is going to really kind of bug the Wild for a little bit is just a major issue coming down to it and coming down to things. But with the Wild, currently $39.3 million heading into next season on projected cap space. That means, of course, Kirill Kaprizov's coming into that, his old contract coming off the books, a lot of other players coming off the books. They would have about 50% of that going to Kirill Kaprizov if we do end up seeing that $19-20 million deal that other teams are reportedly willing to give him, and maybe working on that if he does come down to free agency come next offseason. Now, will the Wild be willing to let that walk? It's very tough to say. Letting the best player in Wild history walk for an amount of money that you would be able to pay, what would you want to? Still too early to say on that front, but this really kind of just makes me a bit nervous about what's going on. And of course, it is still very early. There's still lots of stuff going to be coming out and lots of reports and stuff going to be leading up to this. And especially with the way the Wild are currently structured on their lineup, with really the only contract being above $7 million on the offense is Matt Boldy at $7 million. Kirill Kaprizov's $9 million is the only other one. And on defense, the only other one above $7 million is currently Brock Faber. So the Wild do have enough money to make and really go ahead and spend that money on one player on offense, and really got saved by Matt Boldy having a good contract, Joel Eriksson Ek having a good contract, Marco Rossi having a good contract, guys like Matt Zuccarello, who could retire at the end of the season, Vladimir Tarasenko, those guys, some older players, likely to be gone next season, and have that room freed up for Kirill Kaprizov, and realistically, taking 3 of those players out, putting that all into one contract would be for Kirill Kaprizov. So there is some math that can be worked around. There are some things that can be kind of said, hey, this would work, this might be okay. But at the end of the day, 19, 20 million, even 16 million from what we've been seeing from the Wild, which was rejected, is still a lot of money. And especially with Elliotte Friedman's kind of coming down with, things are going to be a bit insane on that topic. Now, like I said, Connor McDavid's really been the highlight here. And I think that one thing that for sure is happening is Kirill Kaprizov is waiting for McDavid to sign his contract, then could go about and make him the highest paid player. Now, McDavid, whether he gets 14, 15 million, I think Kirill Kaprizov will get more at the end of the day. I think the Wild are going to keep him, and I think Kirill Kaprizov wants more than Connor McDavid, but that's something that I think we'll never really know, but we'll see when the contracts are done at the end of the day. But it really all depends about Connor McDavid, and I think the lower Connor McDavid's contract is, the better it will be for the Minnesota Wild, and also for, the rest of the team. Kirill Kaprizov, not so much, but I think he regardless will be the highest paid player, even whether it is above Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews, or, whatever it may be. But of course, with these stats, with what he's putting up, it's hard to argue with the cap going up that he's not worth that. A lot of money is being dished out. But for a guy who last year was on pace for 112 points, it's a tough thing to kind of go about, and especially with all the injuries that occurred last year. Even to him, if he'd stayed healthy, would have been well more. With him being on the ice a lot more, with a much more, important set of games coming there at the end of the season last year. So I think this is somewhere where we're kind of getting a bit crazy on that front, and especially with what Elliotte Friedman had to say, that there is no magic number yet. They can't get a deal with Kaprizov over the finish line with no more hassle. So I think there's an open number out there. I think there's an open check ready for Kaprizov, but I think that things are just not ready yet. Not ready to be cooked up on that front yet. But one more thing before he finishes off with Elliotte Friedman here, saying Kaprizov said no to an 8 times $16 million deal. Did he give the Wild a number? Did he ask the Wild, what will you take? Or did the Wild ask him, what will you take? Give us a number. As far as I can tell, that has not happened. So until we get to that point, until something happens then, and whether or not it's rejected then, that is not what that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried until we see this, say nope, there's a number, didn't reject it. That's what I'm worried about until the end of it. So right now, some more updates, absolutely craziness on this front, and still getting crazier and crazier by the day, but it's all you have in this one. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well, but let me know in the comments below what you think about this report from Elliotte Friedman, the reported contracts, and how you would play this out if you were the Wild GM. But like I said, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.